Howdy, I'm Matt, and has that got you intrigued? I hope so. Right, so in this video we're going to be talking about the Dart 250G and a couple of very simple modifications to really enhance this model. And they range from very inexpensive to almost free to about 25 quid. We'll say $30, okay? So let's start with the not so obvious one. You may not have seen this before. You'll notice back here on the back of the model, the motor is extended out. How have I done that? And what sorcery is this, you may be thinking? Well, this idea of extending the motor out came from the right-wing mini drac. And there is a backstory to this, and it'll make more sense in just a few seconds' time, which is that when that first arrived with me, the motor was really close up and against the very back of the model. Now that caused two things, and the biggest actual reason was noise. When you've got anything in and around a propeller, is that it makes noise. And while this model is definitely not noisy, the other reason for pushing the motor back out into cleaner air is a greater efficiency. So I did something very, very similar with the mini drac, and it basically accumulated to an extra 10 miles an hour top end speed in a straight line. So literally same day, different battery, one line doing 100, the other line doing, it was 109 miles an hour, okay? But that was an almost 10% increase, okay? Now, I don't know what this is going to do other than A, that I know that it's going to be less noisy, if that's even possible in this model, because it's very quiet anyway. But B, I also know that it's going to make it more efficient, and there is an upshot to doing this, which is that one thing which I had to do to get this model to balance, because remember, I'll use these ones, but I've got other packs. I'm using 18650s, and I've had to put some lead in the tail. I've had to put that little chunk there and that little chunk there, which you can not really see. I had to put that much lead in the tail because my pocket alarm's going off, sorry. Anyway, I had to put some lead in the back so to get the model to balance perfectly on the CG. Now, a benefit of the motor now being back a little bit further is that I can take the lead out of the back, which is basically wasted weight. It's like sugar, which is empty calories. I had dead weight in my model. So I've been and removed that. So then it will now mean that it'll be able to balance easier in the nose. And in fact, I can move those batteries forward slightly. I could also now potentially get maybe a Runcam hybrid, or the Cadillacs Terracer, which I've actually got over there on my desk for review. One of my flying, Josh, big thank you to you fella, he's let me borrow one so I can review it. So potentially I could have HD in this model now because I've gained that little bit extra in the seesaw, if that makes any sense. So yeah, the reason why you would want to do that is A, greater efficiency, and B, less noise, and C, it's really inexpensive. You get those standoffs, and I'll put a link to these in the video description. That's annoying. There you go. Right, you get these, they're 10mm, and they come in a motor pack for the Reptile S800. I will put a link to these in the video description. The same for the other mod, which I'll mention in a moment. And again, for 100% clarity, those will be affiliate links. And remember, I like to be 100% open about that. Now, the second mod is definitely free, to the point of being, it's so inexpensive, it is free. And I want to put a thumbs up to Matt, who mentioned this in the one of the Facebook groups, and he noticed that I was using some tin foil, and he was going, Matt, what's the foil for in the back of your model? Well, actually, this came from a suggestion from somebody else, and it's so inexpensive to do, is that if you're creating a model for perhaps long range, is that it is so simple to do. If you wrap your noisy components, so again, I've got a Crossfire Micro V2 receiver there in the back, and I'm just going to put that down, okay? V2 receiver in the back, and I've got some foil which was wrapped around the HT leads which go out to the motor. I've got the ESC wrapped up in tin foil as well, Now, obviously, the ESC really doesn't get hot on a model like this. It would be highly questionable to do something like that if you were doing that in a model which had like a 40 amp ESC. But yes, that ESC does not get warm at all. Hence, I've been and wrapped it in foil. The same for the receiver and the HT leads, which I'll tidy up in a moment. Now, I've got to be 100% honest with you, I really don't know what kind of serious effect that has on range or reception or anything like that. But the point is that it's extremely easy to do and free. Because you've got some tin foil in the kitchen, you can just go and knit your mums, you know, or the wife's. And it's so easy to do. The only thing which you can screw up is that you must make sure that you're not going to short out any contacts in there. Now that sounds really daft, but it's always worth noting because I know somebody who did that on their receiver, and of course they powered it in and they had smoke coming out of their wing. So use your common sense. Foil is metal and thus a conductor, so wrap anything which is likely to short out in plastic. It could just be sellotape, it could be just some form of insulator to stop you shorting out those components. Sounds really daft, but I know somebody who did it and I laughed my tits off. I've got to be honest with you, but please don't make me laugh my tits off you, because that's just, you're not going to be that silly, are you? Right, so I'll get back in there and sort that out in a moment. The next tip, and I've just noticed something in there, so I'm going to quickly sort that out. And again, the other reason why I put foil on there, and you may have not noticed or known this, is that there is a whacking great big GPS unit in there. And I was having real issues getting a GPS lock with a tiny little BN220 GPS unit, or a very similar one. So I took it out and I've got a whacking great big GPS unit in there now. So yeah, the combination of that and changing the GPS unit has got rid of all my GPS issues. Now the next modification, or I'm actually going to say upgrade for your Dart 250G, is the FPV camera. In the front of this model I have a Kadiak's and a mobile phone which is not on mute. I have a Kadiak's Ratel Starlight. Now I bought that camera out of my own money for, we'll say 25 quid, we'll say $30, and while it's a Starlight camera in inverted commas, so it goes down to 0.0001 lux, okay, it is fine for flying around in car parks, really late evening and really early morning. Okay, and I've probably included some DVR footage for you. Now I'm also going to include some jet black, fully night, no light situation, and yes, Matt did just stuff it in the ground because he couldn't see the trees which are in front of him, let alone the ground. Okay, so there is a limit to that camera, and it's called pitch dark in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of night. Okay, however, late evening jolly, happy days, early morning jolly, I mean the sun's coming up kind of territory, absolutely brilliant, and the colour saturation on it is really nice. And I would have definitely included some different DVR footages in there so you can see what it's like. And I think you're going to agree with me, is that when it really is dark, it's probably not very good for that specifically, and I have a separate little mini shootout coming out very shortly on some night cameras. Although if you just want something which is late evening, early morning, this is going to be perfect for you, and I've been super impressed with that. Although I do have some other FPV cameras. I have the Foxeer Toothless 2, which has just been arrived. That's like a full weather camera, and like I said, I've got a couple of night cameras which are, I've already got the Runcam Night Eagle, which is here as well, and I also have that special one from Foxeer, which they have actually been and sent me for review because I specifically asked for it, because I wanted to do a shootout, because I kind of knew that the Kadiak's Ratel was not good enough for full darkness, and I wanted something which was that little bit better. So we'll see how that one does in the very, very near future. So there you go, 3 very simple mods for your Dart 250G. Number 1, highly inexpensive, like we'll say a couple of dollars because I don't really know how much it is and it's almost irrelevant. I have been and pushed the motor backwards using some 10mm standoffs which were meant for the Reptile S800. Again, the reason why you would want to do that, greater flight efficiency and less noise, although like I said, this is not a particularly noisy model at all. The next modification is to put your tin foil hat on and to wrap your components, and remember, don't be a tool. Foil is a metal, it will short stuff out, so use your common sense when you put that in your model. And the last but least one, and you'll see I've wrapped mine up in just a little bit of black tape just to keep it extra aerodynamic up on the nose, is the Kodiak's Ratel Starlight camera, and that camera is a great, I'm going to say all round, like dusk into dusk and early morning, because it is really good for those kind of scenarios. So I'll include links for those stands off, links for that camera, and go and rave your mice straws for the tin foil, because that is super simple and it's to the point that it's so easy to do. It's more of a case that why would you not do it? So with that said, for myself, Matt, I sincerely hope that this video has been and helped you. If you've been enjoyed this, do me a favour, hit the thumbs up. If you have any questions or comments about anything which you've been and seen here, please just ask in the comments section underneath this video. Remember, that was bought out of my own money, the standoffs, at least the whole model was bought out of my own money, and the same for the camera on the nose as well. If you're new here, howdy, I'm Matt, welcome aboard. Don't forget to press the red subscribe button and of course press the bell notification so that U-Balls notifies you when the next video is out, because it could be that night camera shootout, which I'm really looking forward to, because that one is pretty good, and I'm keeping this polite, pretty good. You've got to admit, probably from what you've seen on the screen, is that if it's late night or early morning, it's pretty good. But however, when it's pitch, no light, dark, not particularly great, and that's what I'm looking for in a later episode. So yeah, hit that subscribe button. It could be that video which is coming out next. On that note, for myself, Matt, a big thank you to you for taking the time to join me here at the workbench with the Dart 250G, which I really must admit, I really have been enjoying flying. Anyway, time for me to go. Cheerios!